Greetings and Happy New Year to you. Today we will visit the memorial dedicated to Hoosier astronaut Gus Grissom, located at the entrance of Spring Mill State Park near Mitchell, Indiana. Before getting started, I would encourage you to subscribe to the Mossy Feet Books YouTube channel for more great content. I also entreat you to visit my website, www.mossyfeet.books.com. There you will find sample chapters, podcasts, and a slew of contents and links to where you can buy my books. While visiting the website, you can subscribe to it and receive email notifications of when I publish a new book or other content like this video and podcast. You can also subscribe to the Mossy Feet Books YouTube channel to ensure you do not miss any of my content. This episode is based upon my book, Spring Mill State Park. The Gus Grissom Memorial, located on the outskirts of Spring Mill State Park, is a fitting memorial to the courageous native son. Native to Mitchell, Indiana, Gus Grissom was a military test pilot and an astronaut. He was one of the original Mercury 7 astronauts that pioneered the United States space program in the early 1960s. Gus died in a launch pad fire in 1968 during a testing operation for the new Gemini space program. Gus's Gemini 3 space capsule, helmet, spacesuit, and other NASA artifacts are in the museum. Admission is free. A state park entrance for the memorial is not required, as the memorial is located just outside the gatehouse. Trail 6, a handicap-accessible paved trail, goes through a portion of the Donaldson Nature Preserve, is also here. In nearby Mitchell, there is a stone monument that honors the town's favorite son in front of the Mitchell Town Hall. His boyhood home is also open at certain times, located at 1017 Raritan Hill, Mitchell, Indiana. Astronaut Virgil I. Grissom lived from April the 3rd, 1926 until January the 27th, 1967. He entered the world as a second child of Dennis, David, and Cecil King Grissom in the small Indiana town of Mitchell. He proved an average student at Mitchell schools. He made money by delivering copies of the Indianapolis Star. When World War II broke out, the eager high school student couldn't wait to graduate so he could enlist. Prior to graduation, he completed an entrance exam for the United States Air Force. Upon graduation, the Army sent him to Shepherd Field in Wichita Falls, Texas, for basic training. The Army assigned him the clerk duties at the Brooks Field in San Antonio, Texas. He served there until his discharge in September 1945. I might note that during this time, the Air Force was not a separate military division, but it was part of the United States Army until sometime in the 50s when it was separated. Prior to his discharge, he married his high school sweetheart, Betty LaVon Moore. Upon discharge, he moved back to Mitchell and took a job in the school bus factory, the Carpenter Body Works. Deciding he wanted more, he enrolled in Purdue University under the GI Bill and graduated in 1950 with a bachelor's degree of science degree in mechanical engineering. After graduation, he had enlisted in the United States Air Force. He wanted to become a test pilot. The Army sent him to Randolph Air Force Base in Universal City, Texas, to train at the Air Cadet Basic Training Program. After completion of this course, the Korean War had broken out, and he shipped to the war zone in February 1952. His wartime service gained him steady promotions and the Air Medal with Cluster and Distinguished Flying Cross. After his tour of duty completed, he became a jet instructor in Bryan, Texas, and then on to study aeronautical engineering at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. At the conclusion of that training, he achieved his dreams when the Air Force accepted him as a fighter jet test pilot in 1957. By the late 1950s, the space race was just beginning, and the United States military needed candidates for the first men to fly into space. They selected Virgil Gus Grissom as one of the initial group of 7. This was a so-called Mercury 7. On July the 21st, 1961, he flew the second Mercury flight in the Liberty Bell 7. At the conclusion of the flight, he was involved in a controversial problem in which the door on the space capsule blew off prematurely, sinking the space capsule. Many charged that he panicked and blew the door open too soon. Examination of the craft, which has been recovered, exonerated him. Grissom's space career continued in spite of the controversy. He next flew into space on March the 23rd, 1965, on Gemini 3 flight on a Gemini 3 flight. NASA next selected Grissom to command the Apollo 1 flight. Apollo was the third program in America's space program that would culminate in the landing of the first man on the moon. Unfortunately, Grissom's career was cut short in a launch pad fire on January the 27th, 1967. Grissom and his two crewmates, Ed White and Roger Chapman, died in the blaze. This episode is based upon my book, Spring Mill State Park, available on the website www.mossyfeetbooks.com. The book is the first book in the 11-volume Indiana State Park Travel Guide series. The books include information about the parks, museum, historic sites, and many other destinations across the state. I encourage you to visit the website and subscribe to it. You can find my books locally at the Walnut Street Variety Shop in Batesville, Indiana. I hope you enjoyed this podcast.